me, converted man. Hallelujah. Anyway, so Greg, defending the faith, says proof of God. Can any atheist answer this question? Objective moral laws. Hashtag Frank Turek. Oh. Oh, good. Frank Turek, eh? Alright. Alright, Greg. Let's see if you got anything. Let's check it out.
Hey, you should watch this. This is by far the best testament to the existence of God that I know of. And
Alright, let me stop right there. You said testament of God. You didn't say proof of God. But your video says proof of God. Now, which is it? Testament or proof?
it's something that I've never seen an atheist answer. Not once. I've never seen them answer that. I mean that genuinely. And
Alright, so here's the thing there, Greg. It doesn't matter if anyone can or cannot answer any given question. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't prove anything. There's all sorts of questions that I could propose that you could not hope to answer. How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Well, no one can answer that. There isn't an answer for that. What is God made out of doesn't have an answer. Well, why? Well, you might say God isn't made out of anything. How does that work exactly? You have no idea. Where is God located? Well, outside space time. Oh, it's no when and no where? How does that work? How does God work? What is its power drawn from other than itself? But where is that coming from? How does that mechanically function? There's plenty of questions that you simply would have no way to answer, and that doesn't mean anything. So, not being able to answer any given question is not relevant. What's relevant is what we can demonstrate to be the case, what we can show to be true, either through empirical evidence, repeatable tests, or a valid and sound argument would be good. Do you have any of those?
that is the concept of that there is a set of objective moral values and duties, meaning we know something can be evil. We know.
Okay, so you've asserted that there are objective moral values and duties, and then proceed to say we know X and Y and Z. No, we do not know this. You believe this. You believe that there are objective moral values and duties. You might be correct in that belief, but you must demonstrate that there are, in fact, objective morals and duties. You can't just assert that we know X is true. Why? Well, for the same reason that I cannot simply assert that it is known that you owe me $1 million. You didn't know that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we all know that Greg, defending the faith, owes me $1 million, but I'm a generous guy. I'll take it down to 10,000. How about that, Greg? You owe me 10,000. We know that that's true. What's that? You don't know that's true? But of course we know it's true. I said that we know it's true. So, an assertion without anything to back it up should be dismissed. And that's all you're doing when you say, we know that there are objective moral values and duties. You must demonstrate that those things exist without appealing to what we, quote, know, especially since I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it is, but you need to demonstrate that that is.
Know something can be good, but why do we know that? And the derivative, right at the base of it, no matter what, as far as you go, you're going to get to a point where it's like, yeah, there's no reason why that would be considered good and that evil. There's no reason for it if we're just a group of, or a bunch of cells. or a moist robot, as Frank Turk says.
Okay, so not understanding something doesn't make that thing false. So you believe that if we are just X, which I suppose if you want to be a reductionist about it, we are a bunch of cells. We're more than just that. But yes, we are comprised of cells and molecules and subatomic particles and essentially energy itself. So, yes, we are that. But we're also more than just that. To do this reductionist view is something that I don't really think anyone actually seriously has that position. Maybe somebody does. Well, probably somebody does because people have weird views. But I certainly don't hold that view. I don't see us humans as just the thing that we're made out of. That's rather silly and well reductionist. And it's not true. I'm more than just my cells. I'm my brain, but I'm more than just my brain as well. My brain is used to the rest of my body, and so it requires that to be the brain that I'm used to. And should something change, then well, my brain too will have to change to accommodate that change, and that will be something that could be very difficult to do. But nonetheless, I am more than the component parts that make up for me. This is just not the way that I view this, and nor is it a reflection of reality. But simply saying, well, that's all we are, so I don't understand or I don't see how we could have morals or ethics, etc., is an appeal to ignorance. Simply because you don't know what the answer is, that doesn't mean anything. And so you're extrapolating from your ignorance and saying, well, I don't understand. If we're just this, then how could we have these morals? Well, we do have those morals, and we also are made of cells. We're not just cells, though. We're a combination of various phenomenon that all result in a thinking creature. So that is more than what you're describing, but you're still appealing to ignorance when you make a statement such as you have here, where you say, I don't understand how this works, therefore it can't work that way. This also would be an appeal to personal incredulity. You can't believe that it's some other way than what it appears. It is natural phenomenon that is going on, and your ignorance doesn't make your conclusion true.
Which sounds weird, but this is a concept that if you don't get it, if you're in a debate with someone or just a conversation and they really can't grasp this or they refuse to grasp it, they just can't do it, it gets to the point where there is a veil over their spirits, their hearts are hardened. I mean,
Okay, so this is poisoning of the well, and it is to some extent presuppositionalism. It's essentially setting up a no failure condition for yourself. You're saying that if you're talking to somebody and they, quote, don't get it, well, it's not that you are losing, it's that they have a hardened heart, that they have a veil over their spirit. So there's no way you could ever be wrong about your ideas. It must be their fault that they're not getting it. They're not seeing it because of some spiritual reason rather than any factual, logical, scientific, philosophical reason. They just no, it's just they just don't want to. They don't want to hear it. So it's that's why that it's not working. It's not your fault. It's them. It's a no, it's a you can't lose sort of game that you're trying to put into effect by saying this. I could very well say, well, If you don't understand what I am saying, that's because you're pure evil. And then I'm going to say, Walla Walla Bing Bang, did you know what those words mean? You don't? Well, I guess you're pure evil then. There you go. You didn't understand those words. And I said if you didn't understand them, then you're pure evil. But of course, I didn't demonstrate that you're not understanding links in any way, shape, or form to you being pure evil. And even if you are pure evil, that doesn't do anything for whatever the argument is. Who cares? You could be pure good, pure evil, pure whatever, and still have a valid and sound argument, or still have an invalid argument. Your personhood, the type of person you are, is irrelevant. So all you're doing is saying, "Oh, that person that isn't agreeing with you that morals are objective, they're evil. They're closed off. They're hard-hearted. They're spiritually veiled." So that you can protect your own beliefs and think, I won that conversation. You didn't. You just poisoned the well in an effort to protect your non argument that you're making. That is not logical. You need to do better than that.
Because this is as proof as you can possibly get in the sense of just, having your faculties of reason and being rational about this. There's no other obligation, or there is no other way.
Why are you persuaded?
Okay, so that's it. He's run out of material and now has to turn to Frank Turek to do the heavy lifting for him. I really would prefer if Greg would make his own content for me to talk about and engage with, because I don't care about Frank Turek. I've covered Frank Turek before. I'd rather cover Greg. So, because the rest is just Frank Turek, and I don't care about Frank Turek, I'm gonna skip past that to, I think he's just reacting there in the bottom. He's just kind of listening. Or is he saying something? Let's see.
Kid would say, evidence
No,
to suggest other.
He's just He's just looking. He's just watching. Okay, so let's get to the point where he says something again.
Hey, if you're an atheist or coming from a naturalistic point of view, please feel free to leave your thoughts if you have extra thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious about it. If you have a way to answer that. And then also, if you guys could like and subscribe or share. I know, like I said, everyone says that, but it does help with algorithms.
Okay, so essentially, Greg's just using whatever Frank said and wants me to answer whatever Frank said. I'm not going to do that. Sorry, Greg. I'm not interested in Frank. I'm interested in what your argument is. Do you have an argument to offer? By the way, having me answer a question is switching the burden of proof. I am not going to respond to any question until you have proven the things that you have said are true. Remember, you said that there are objective moral values and duties. Then it is up to you to demonstrate that these things exist. Based on that belief, you believe, also a second belief you hold, is that somehow the existence of these moral ethics, duties, obligations, etc., somehow interlink to the existence of a God, with an asterisk after God, because it's not just any old God, it's actually your particular version of God. So you need to demonstrate that that's correct as well. You need to show the association causation linkage between the two. Shifting the burden of proof isn't going to do that for you. Now, as I said, I want to examine Greg, not Frank Turek. But luckily for me, even though his video is extraordinarily short, now he's just asking for likes and subs and such, let's just make sure he doesn't say anything that I need to respond to.
A lot, and I do want to help reach people, especially someone that needs it. So I'll say a prayer for you guys. For us, thank you.
No, he's just gonna pray. Okay, so skip it. All right. Now I can tell a little bit about uh Greg here by what his responses are to some of the things said in his comments that he's responded to. So I can glimmer a bit more about Greg, who I'm more interested in than Frank Turek, because Greg might actually respond to me. Frank Turek, nah, he's too big to notice me, but perhaps Greg will, and maybe Greg will talk to me instead of at me. I don't know. So let me make sure that it's big enough. Whee! Whoa there, baby. Let's see. Okay. So he liked this particular let me just okay, yeah. He liked this comment. Things that we define as moral can also be defined as meeting a goal, subjective part of establishing what the goal is. For example, humans would act in accordance with what's best for harm reduction to humans, etc. Okay. He says, interesting. But what about when a person selflessly, that gains nothing for it, helps a person that's not in the in-group? What justification would there be in their worldview for the action to take place? Okay, so there's assuming that there's a worldview going on here, and then there's asking this question. But why not explore that question in a different way? That is to say, rather than ask what justification would there be, is let's assume that they're correct for a moment. That everything that this random person has said is correct. Asking for clarification or, what about selflessness is fine. But there are things that explain selflessness in an evolutionary standpoint and why we would display selfless behavior from time to time. And there's a great many videos you could explore on that subject. So it seems to me that this is just a I don't understand how this works sort of thing. Here is another statement by Greg. This guy says, Martin whatever says, one knows good and evil because of empathy. Then he asks, but how does a randomly, I'm not sure why he capitalized that, created sack of cells have empathy? Well, that assumes that it's random, which it's not exactly random, and if you understood biological evolution, you would know that. So this seems again to be, I don't understand how this works. Please explain it to me, random YouTube commenters. Why not go study biological evolution, Greg? It seems to me that you're lacking the knowledge of how these things work, and many of your questions would be explained if you bothered to actually do the work of learning biological evolution. It doesn't seem like you understand it at all to me. And these sort of questions highlight that. Also, I don't think you quite understand informal logic because this is a loaded question. Morality is a concept. Correct. It is a concept that exists in our brains, and our brains are matter. So it exists as ideas exist inside our heads. But I think that the dualism that some theists carry make them very confused that thoughts are somehow transcendent and separate from the brain. As far as I can tell, they're not. But yes, morality is a concept, and as such, it is subjective to our thoughts on the matter, as far as I can tell. Here we have another comment. But there had to be a beginning. Why? Why do you think that? Have you studied cosmology? What is your degree in cosmology exactly? Because I've listened to some National Center science education videos on cosmology, and they have experts, scientists that have been theorizing and looking at this stuff, and them debating and discussing it with each other. And some of it I could understand, but some of it's just like way over my head. Have you listened to those videos? Because it doesn't seem like that there has to be a beginning according to some of those scientists. And maybe they're right. I don't know. But why does there have to be a beginning? Couldn't I say the same for your God? There had to be a beginning to it? Well, no, because God's always been. Well, then why can't the universe always be? Oh, well, because it hasn't been because of the Big Bang cosmology. Yeah, but that's actually not how that works, one. And secondly, the Big Bang cosmology has some assumptions that are worth looking into, and we haven't really figured out exactly how all of that works yet. So instead of going off half-cocked of what you think cosmology says or what you think has to be true, it seems like you need to do more research on the matter. So it was a single cell, and that evolved into human beings with reason and critical thinking? No, the single cell did not evolve in that way. It this is highlighting your ignorance on biological evolution. Go learn biological evolution. When how did the intangible or conceptual laws evolve? Good question. Why don't you go study it and find out? There's evolution, there's philosophy, and there's evolutionary psychology. These things might actually explore that subject in deeper methods, and it seems that you're simply ignorant of the science here. When did love start? Uh, I don't know that we have the answer to that, but why does that matter? Who knows? When did empathy start? Same thing. Who knows? These aren't biological necessary elements. You don't know that that's true. You don't have this sort of understanding to make that sort of statement. Based on what understanding of biology do you make that sort of absolute statement? How in the world do you know that? What if they are absolutely necessary? These are just more revealing of your ignorance of these matters, Greg. And it seems to me that you just haven't learned these different subject matters so that you would know the answers to these questions. They're great questions. I'm not going to give you the answers. I don't know the answers. I'd have to go learn it too. I don't know. I don't know that we know the answers, but at least I'm willing to admit I don't know. I've studied some of it. I understand some of it. But to answer these questions, you would have to understand a lot more of it. And it doesn't appear that you even understand the basics from these things that you have written. It's not even just how did they evolve. Yet, no, actually, that's exactly what it is. What we would learn would be how things evolve. It's also why would they have been evolved. The two are exactly the same. You're doing this apologetic why and how swapping. It's exactly the reason that the stick insect evolved is to hide from the birds, who also evolved to match the sticks, and they're engaged in an arms race with each other. It's beneficial, uh, and anti-beneficial evolution, both out trying to outcompete each other, until one prevails. And so some birds are will find the stick insects even though they are very well disguised, and so the pressure to keep those camouflage and improve them continues to increase on those insects, and the birds have to evolve to be better at spotting those insects. But the birds don't eat just those insects. There's other insects for the birds to eat. So, this again would just go into you needing to learn this stuff and not appeal to your own personal ignorance, Greg. What purpose or empathy or philanthropy serve in a purely naturalistic world? Uh, those are good questions. Why don't you research it and find out the answers? Why are you relying on random YouTube comment section for your answers? I mean, you could just literally put that into Google and see what pops up. Let's see. Oh, look. Here's how easy that was, Greg. Look, natural philanthropy, a new evolutionary theory. I don't know. That's from Nature Journal there, so that's probably good. All right, accept all cookies, whatever. And here's an abstract, and so here's this thing, and you could read all that. That might be one of it. Another way to do this would be go to Google Scholar, and then from there type in that, and then see what pops up there. Or you could use GPT here, and you could type in the question there, and you could get a decent answer there. There you go, Greg. There's a few ways you could get your answer, Greg. I don't know why you're being so lazy about it, Greg. So it seems to me, after reading some of the comments that Greg has for in responses, that his go-to is relying upon his personal ignorance and or personal incredulity to ask questions of people that he could easily find the answer to, but he doesn't bother to figure out what the answer is in order to maintain his beliefs. I could be wrong about those ideas that I'm holding, and if Greg sees this and he wants to correct me on those issues, he's free to do so. Although I doubt he will talk to me. Somebody else offered him an invite to talk to them on his channel, but it seems that Greg might be more willing to talk about atheists rather than talk to atheists. One could only wonder why that might be, Greg. Anyways, that's all I've got. Greg doesn't have any proof for anything, just logical fallacies and no argument of his own to offer. So, Greg, unless and until you do have any argument for me to examine, or empirical evidence or repeatable test, we're going to have to be skeptical of your conclusion.